This is episode 1 of 3 episodes of Detroit Black Millionaire Numbers Men. The entire series will cover the years between 1913 and 1963. Episode 1, which you're about to see now, will cover the years of 1913 to 1933. In this episode, you'll learn about 6 of the 7 numbers men. Number 7 will be covered in episode 3. You'll learn who these men were. You'll learn something about their backgrounds. You'll learn how they became numbers men and what they owned and what they controlled. You'll also learn something about 2 neighborhoods that a great many Black Americans lived at that time because of segregation. Those 2 neighborhoods were Botton and Paradise Valley, where Black dollars circulated several times, and sometimes the dollars would not even leave the community, unlike today. You'll also learn the difference between the numbers and policy, 2 illegal gambling games of the time. For those of you who like to support the channel, I now have Cash App and PayPal, and links to both of those are below in the description. I've also designed 2 t-shirts, one of which I'm wearing called Original People in red, black, and green, and the other one is Detroit Black History, which talks about or displays information about all of the videos on this channel. Links to purchase the t-shirts and the accompanying coffee mugs can be found below as well. So don't forget to subscribe so when episode 2 and 3 are released, you'll get a notification. So, okay, let's get started. Here you see John Roxborough and Everett Watson, 2 of the several Black millionaire numbers men you'll learn about in this video. The others are William Mosley, Irvin Rohn, Thomas Rooster Hammond, Walter Norwood, and John White. If there is any copyrighted material in this video, it is permitted under the 1976 Copyright Act under fair use. This is a map of the city of Detroit showing the location of Black population from 1910 to 1950. The area we're going to concentrate on is in the dark area in the lower center. The southern border of Detroit is the Detroit River, across which is Canada. This is a closer view of the area that we'll be discussing. The area was divided into 2 communities, the lower half being Black Bottom, which was basically a residential area between Congress Street and Gratiot Street, and St. Alban on the east. And the upper area was called Paradise Valley, which was composed of basically entertainment venues and also neighborhoods. People lived in the area as well. Those 2 dark shapes in the lower part of Paradise Valley show where the home fields of the Detroit Lions and Detroit Tigers are now located. This chart shows how Detroit's Black population grew from 1910 to 1970. And just look at the different businesses that were in these 2 areas. The physicians looking down on the chart, lawyers, dentists, drugstores, hotels, electricians, bondsmen, insurance companies. Now don't forget to support the channel and subscribe down below. This is a colorized version of Paradise Valley and Black Bottom, and if you notice the cluster of policy and numbers houses in Paradise Valley, you'll see that Detroit Police Headquarters was literally blocks away at 1300 Beaubien. And here's a picture of the building. I would later work in the building on the 6th floor as a 911 operator. And rather than call it headquarters, everybody called it 1300 Bobian. And before that building was built, this one was the headquarters, still within walking distance of that great cluster of policy houses and numbers houses. Now, these are shots of Black Bottom prior to its demolition. This is how it would have looked during the period of time that we're going to be discussing. And these pictures were taken in the late 50s prior to its demolition to make room for I-75 and I-375 expressways. Now, several famous people lived in Black Bottom. Among these was Charles Diggs Sr., highly successful funeral home director, second Black Michigan State Senator, as well as his son, Charles Diggs Jr., who was Michigan's first Black congressman. Also, the United Negro Improvement Association was located in Black Bottom, which was a Black self-help group under the leadership of Marcus Garvey. It was located on Russell and Mullet. It would later move to St. Alban and Warren, and I remember seeing the building. The two popular illegal gambling games popular in Detroit and in many cities across the country were Policy and the Numbers. Policy was much older. It dated back to the 1800s in the United States. In that game, 78 numbers were placed in a drum. The wheel was spun, and the manager would pull out how many numbers that that particular game called for. Today's lottery uses that very same format. The other game was the Numbers, and according to many sources, created and controlled by African Americans. It was conceived by West Indian immigrant Casper Holstein in Harlem. He used one digit each from win, place, and show amounts of horse races to get the winning 3 digits for the number that would fall that day. The owners of the Numbers and Policy houses provided much to the Black community. They were employers. They were bankers, real estate investors, philanthropists, sports enthusiasts who provided entertainment for African Americans, and some of them became millionaires. Willie D. Mosley and his wife came to Detroit from Alabama during the Great Migration, which started about 1915, which saw millions of African Americans leave the South for primarily the North and the West. He worked in the factory, bought a cab in 1921, and within a few years owned a fleet of 10 cabs and formed the Midway Cab Company. In 1931, he was in the real estate business, and in 1933, he bought the Detroit Stars Negro League team. Also, he founded the Detroit Tribune, which was a weekly newspaper which stayed in print until 1966. This is an image of the Detroit Tribune newspaper that he founded. In the upper right, you see the location of the Detroit Tribune and one of his numbers houses, denoted by the 2 yellow balloons. And in the lower right, you see the addresses of those 2 businesses. Willie D. also owned 25 residential and commercial properties. He owned a pool hall, a nightclub, and every year he would provide Christmas gifts and meals for thousands of people. He also supported and sponsored other activities like the School of Cookery for the Housewives League and Booker T. Washington Trade Association exhibit held at the Forest Club, owned by Sonny Wilson. Information about these 2 organizations and Sonny Wilson can be found in other videos on this channel. I was unable to find a picture of Willie D., but I did find this one of his brother Charles, who would take over for him after his untimely death. Here's an image in Paradise Valley at St. Antoine and Adams where two of his businesses were located near. This is also a picture of the Detroit Stars baseball team, and sadly, his death was announced in his own paper. He was killed in May of 1935 by one of his own employees who was a writer. His name was William Penix, 38 years old. He had played a certain number, but had written the wrong date on the betting slip, and Mosley refused to pay him. They got into an argument outside of one of his businesses, and Penix pulled out a gun and shot and killed him. The funeral was held at Shiloh Baptist Church, where the Brewster projects would later be built in Paradise Valley. 7,000 attended the funeral. 25,000 attended the viewing. Mr. Penix was sentenced to 15 to 30 years at Jackson Prison. Everett Watson was born in New Jersey in 1884. He came to Detroit in 1916, and in 5 years he was manager of the East Side Social Club. From 1922 to 1929, he was the manager of the Waiters and Bellsmen's Club. He set up his own numbers house called the Yellow Dog House. And also in 1928, he bought 400 acres of land in Grass Lake, Michigan, just west of Ann Arbor. He built a fabulous estate called Cherokee Farms that had a lagoon, horse stables, and a main house that had 9 bedrooms. He would also buy the Detroit Stars baseball team. On the map of Paradise Valley in the upper left, you'll see the location of 2 of Watson's properties on Beaubien and St. Antoine in the blue bubble and the blue X. In the lower right, you'll see the addresses of those properties in the blue stripe. Watson also owned a real estate company. African Americans could obtain property and vehicle insurance from Watson. From his Watson Loan Company, they could get mortgages and personal loans. He was also part owner of a beer distributing company. This is a pastel portrait I did of Watson. Watson bought the Detroit Stars in 1931. Here you see them at Mack Park where they played, located on Mack and Fairview. In 1935, Watson donated his nightclub to attorney Harold Bledsoe, who was running for a circuit court judge. Attorney Bledsoe is the father of the very famous Judge Geraldine Bledsoe Ford, and is the grandfather of the current Judge Deborah Geraldine Bledsoe Ford. Attorney Bledsoe was one of the major founders of the African American Wolverine Bar Association and the National Bar Association. He became known as the father of the black lawyer because of the many African Americans he mentored in that profession. This is an image of Roscoe Toles, the heavyweight boxer that Watson managed. This is a promotional flyer for the Paradise Bowling Alley that Watson and John Roxborough built around 1940. It was located on Adams and Hastings. John Roxborough was the only one from this group of men that my father used to talk about. He talked about Roxborough in relationship to his being Joe Louis's manager. In addition, he owned 4 numbers and policy houses. He also co-owned the Paradise Bowling Alley with Everett Watson. He also owned the Superior Life Insurance Company. Here you'll see a ceramic wall plaque that I made of Roxborough. One of his policy houses was in Paradise Valley. It's the green bubble you see in the upper left-hand corner. Roxborough on the right was born in 1892 in Louisiana into a very prosperous family. His father was a lawyer. They moved to Detroit in 1899, and Roxborough is seen here with his three brothers. He's on the left. They didn't move into Paradise Valley or Black Bottom. They moved further east into a Polish neighborhood. He attended Eastern High School, seen here. He and his older brother Charles would attend the University of Detroit, located not that far from Black Bottom on East Jefferson. The building is still standing today. Now it is the University of Detroit Law School. They would also attend the Detroit College of Law. Roxborough did not graduate, but his brother did and became a lawyer, fluent in Polish. The building was demolished to make room for the sports stadium. His older brother would become Michigan's first black senator. Racial violence in the South drove a lot of African Americans to Detroit looking for a better life. Another reason they came was to work at this plant in Highland Park on Woodward in Manchester. In 1914, Henry Ford announced the revolutionary $5 a day salary. Many Southern whites came to Detroit too. This plant and other businesses were ideal locations to find numbers customers. Numbers writers found customers who had the money and the desire to take a chance on the numbers. The two red X's show where the two Ford plants were located. The one in the middle, the Highland Park plant, and the one in the lower left, the Dearborn plant, which was built in 1928. Streetcars provided fast transportation. In the upper left, notice Hudson's department store. Policy players would go directly to the policy house and place their bets, whereas the person playing numbers could wait at their home or their job or their place of business and wait for the writer or the numbers man to pick up their bets. Here are two examples of Everett Watson's Yellow Dog betting slips. On the one on the left, the person played number 150 for 5 cents and number 319 for 10 cents for a total of 15 cents in the lower right corner. On this slip, the person played 801 and boxed it for 10 cents. Now 801 could fall in 6 different ways, so that total was 60 cents. In this example, you see a combination, one number boxed and 4 numbers played straight for a total of 7 cents. In this example, you see how a daily number was derived from horse racing amounts. They would take the number to the left of the decimal point. Race 1 paid $18.20, so they would take the 8. The next one down, 7. And the next one down, a 4. So the daily winning number for that day was 874. There was a big market for dream books and tip sheets for policy players and numbers players. For example, if you dreamed about something, you can go to a dream book, like the Three Wise Men, which I remember growing up. You could go to the dream book and see what that dream played for and play that number. This is a tip sheet, give you tips on what to play on a certain day, and ministers would give out numbers over the radio to increase their listening audience. Walter Norwood was also a very successful numbers and policy man. He owned the Norwood Hotel, the Manhattan Numbers House, which was in his hotel, the Hollywood and C&D policy houses, Club Plantation, the Congo Club. Here is a picture of his hotel, and it was located in Paradise Valley, just west of St. Antoine on Adams. And here's a picture of Adams and St. Antoine. So it would have been located near that location, maybe a half block. And here's a menu from his Congo club there. Irvin Rohn and Thomas Hammond, by all accounts, were good friends and partners. They had the New York and St. Louis Policy House, the Alabama and Georgia House, the Arcade Barbershop, and the Ferry and Brush office were some of their businesses and holdings. And here they are together, very impeccably dressed, I might add. That house on Ferry was it is really beautiful. Here's another picture of Hammond on the left and Rohn. Their Alabama house was located on Adams, just east of Woodward. Around the corner from the Tigers, Comerica Park is now located. That marks the end of episode 1. In episode 2, you'll learn the definition of a race man and a race woman. We'll have a special section about heavyweight champ Joe Louis's career, its beginning, and his championship reign with the help of numbers men. You'll learn about a murder-suicide and how it exposed government and police corruption and how it affected the numbers game. You'll learn about all the criminal indictments that followed. Don't forget to subscribe so you can receive a notification when episodes 2 and 3 are uploaded. Also, check out the description box down below to learn different ways you can support the channel. So goodbye for now, until next time.